Kristalina, what do you view as the biggest risk for island states, for low-income countries as they struggle with climate and the pandemic at the same time?
These economies are stepping into the pandemic and the climate crisis from a very vulnerable position. They have limited fiscal space, many of them high level of debt, and they are devastated by multiple shocks. We are in a more shock-prone world. We are all affected, but this group of countries is affected the most. My biggest concern is whether the world would recognize our responsibility to be there for countries and create the environment for them to succeed. Of course, they have to do their part, but on shocks that are of that magnitude, small countries do need the solidarity of the rest of the world. We must be there for them.
You've often talked about providing that buffer. Let's talk about countries receiving special drawing rights. How concerned are you that they'll spend the money and in the end unable to pay back the reserves that was borrowed?
Let me first start by the main objective of the issuance of special drawing rights, and it is to boost reserves of all our members. This is the largest in the history of IMF SDR allocation, $650 billion. As you probably remember last time, after the global financial crisis, it was $250 billion. This is the most dramatic recession we have experienced, and rightly so, we provide the biggest boost of reserves. So those countries are going to get in mid-August much needed breath of fresh air by benefiting from the SDR allocation. But we recognize that there is space to do more by counting on the countries that are receiving SDRs but don't really need it for their reserve position to on-lend some of it to the countries that need this boost. Our objective is to create highly concessional flow of funds through on-lending SDRs. And of course, the details are to come, but we are looking into making sure these countries benefit from very low interest rates. The current SDR interest rate is 5 basic points, and making sure that we can work on maturities that are more appropriate for the needs of these countries. In other words, give them space to take advantage of this resource, boost growth, and create the opportunity for growth to feed back into the sustainability of their finances.
You've also talked about a resilience and sustainability trust. How far along are you? Provide some details for us.
The very important signal that the G7 sent during this weekend, that they encourage the IMF to work on a goal of $100 billion on lending of SDRs from countries that have it, don't need it, to those who don't have it and need it, means that we are on the right track to expand the objectives of this use of SDRs through on lending channels beyond what initially was agreed, which is to boost lending on concessional terms to low-income countries. The category of countries we are looking at for this notionally called by us, by staff of the IMF, Resilience and Sustainability Trust, is to be determined, but what I'm sure would fall into this category are low, middle-income countries, and especially highly vulnerable to climate shocks, small economies, island economies like Barbados, that was just with us on our panel. Where we would be, I would know more after we have in-depth discussions with the membership. But the signal is very clear. The IMF is going to have a resource that helps low middle-income countries above and beyond a group of low-income countries that are already benefiting from concessional finance.